All right, good evening. I have 6 o'clock, and so we will go ahead and call to order our regular session of February 14, 2017. First order of business that we have this evening is the opening prayer and the pledges of allegiance to the flags of the United States and the state of Texas. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards is running a few minutes behind, so I'm going to come down and offer a prayer, lead us in the pledges, and then we'll go straight into the rest of our meeting. Before I begin the prayer this evening, we have a proclamation with regard to George Washington. And again, prior to offering the prayer, I would encourage us all as we go through our daily lives, and certainly this evening, that we reflect on the fragile thing that we have, this experiment called the Republic of the United States of America, this constitutional republic that is the great human experiment. If you'll pray with me then. Lord, many times we get caught up in our daily lives and we don't pause and give thanks for all of the things we've been blessed with. So we take a brief pause now and ponder on your gifts. We ask this evening that you guide us to your will and give us the strength and courage to be your servants. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right, the next thing that we have on the agenda this evening, we have a proclamation recognizing George Washington's birthday. I'm going to come down to the podium once again and invite our guests to join me. I'm going to read the proclamation first, and then I'm going to invite either or both of these gentlemen to share a word, or the young lady that's joined us to share a word or two if they wish. So I just wanted to give you the heads up before I said so. And the proclamation reads as this: whereas the United States of America was established following the War of the Revolution from 1776 to 1783, a war won through the brilliant and courageous leadership of one George Washington, a revered father of our nation. And whereas George Washington, who lived from 1732 to 1799, mobilized the Continental Army and led the American colonies against the most powerful country in the world, finally defeating the British at the famous Battle of Yorktown, Virginia. And whereas this revered founder of our nation resisted the efforts of many supporters to make him a king or dictator, instead using his influence and power to support the creation and adoption of the Constitution of the United States. And whereas George Washington was elected as the first president of the United States, serving 2 terms of office from 1789 to 1797, and through his devotion, wisdom, and vision, became the example of distinguished leadership for all future presidents. And whereas the William Hightower chapter of the Sons of the American Revolution and the local chapter 35 wishes to encourage all citizens to recognize the epical contributions of George Washington to our nation by celebrating his birth on Wednesday, February 22nd, 2017. Now, therefore, I, Michael Carpenter, by virtue of the authority vested in me as mayor of the city of Schertz, Texas, do hereby proclaim February 22nd, 2017 as President George Washington Day, and call upon all citizens of Schertz to recognize and honor the brilliance, courage, and vision of the father of our nation and the relevance of his life to the preservation of our republic in today's complex world. Thank you all for joining us this evening, and would you like an opportunity here at the microphone? Very good. then if you won't take the opportunity, then I'll make a couple of quick comments. There are many things that happened during the time, one of which was that the vote was actually taken on July 2nd, 1776. Although it reads in Congress July 4th, 1776. The vote was taken on the 2nd. And history records and tells us that after the vote was taken, they all stood there in silence for several minutes in awe at what they had done. They had all just agreed to pledge to one another their lives, their sacred honor, their fortunes, their families. They all committed an act of treason that day against their lawful government. No small undertaking. It took extraordinary courage. And they stood there in silence in awe of what they had done, wondering what the outcome would be. I hope and believe in my heart that those that were at Valley Forge and those that were at Yorktown or at Saratoga or wherever the war took them when they slept at night in the cold or wherever they were, that they did have dreams that someday we would be, their children and their children's children, free to do what we do here. To come together peaceably and as a community choose how to govern ourselves. It was a great gift from George Washington and those like him. Thank you all for joining us tonight. Please do.
Not many people realize that in 1775, the total population of what became the United States was less than the population of metropolitan San Antonio. Can you imagine Bexar County taking on the British Empire and winning? We owe them a lot.
Thank you. Oh, I should put this down there. The next item we have on the agenda this evening is a presentation regarding our retiring K-9 and our new K-9, but they're not going to be able to make it this evening for whatever reason. I hope that means that they're maybe getting their nails done. City events and announcements next on the agenda. Announcements of upcoming city events. Who has the duty?
I do tonight.
Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For our announcements, tomorrow, Wednesday, February 15th, is the Fire Department Awards Banquet at 6:30 p.m. at the Civic Center. On Thursday is the Chamber Mixer. It's hosted by cruise planners from 5:30 to 7 p.m. On Monday, February 20th, is President's Day, and city offices will be closed. On the 21st, Tuesday, is the Chamber Luncheon, begins at 11:30 at the Civic Center, and it's the State of the City's address. And also that evening is going to be our first Council on the Go for 2017. It's going to be at Ray Corbett Junior High School at 6:30 p.m. On the 25th, Saturday, is going to be the 7th Annual Salute to Service Members, Operation Comfort 5K, and Kids Freedom Fun Run. Registration begins at 6:30 a.m. at Bluebonnet Palace, and the race kicks off at 9. And then on Tuesday, February 28th, we'll be having a council meeting at 6 p.m. here in the chambers. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Next item that we have on the agenda, announcements and recognitions by the city manager, Mr. Kessel. Mr. Kessel.
Mr. Mayor, Council, I've got 3 Valentine's Awards for staff. The first Valentine Award is a teamwork award, and we had received a notice from one of our citizens that there was a large hole that had been cut in the roadway and driveway area and it appeared to have gone unrepaired for a bit of time. The homeowner called our engineering department. Eddie Diggs went out and looked at it and was able to work with Public Works to get it repaired. She sent a really nice note in saying how much she appreciated that, but when we contacted Eddie, Mr. Diggs, he was very quick to say, it wasn't me, all I did was look at it. It was Public Works and that team and that crew, which I'm not certain which one it was, but he immediately gave them full credit for doing the work and getting it done. So he gets the Valentine's Day Award #1. Number 2 is the city itself is getting a Valentine's Day Award. We have a program that we're rolling out right now called Smart Dollars. It is the Dave Ramsey online course that we pay for and provide to our city employees so that they can get better within their own means with their finances. We have currently 32% participation of all city employees in that program, and we're hoping with our kickoff and through March to increase that number. It's a great program. There's an online app for the phone, and so that's the second one. But the third Valentine's Day is the real Valentine's. This is the one that I'm most proud of on Valentine's Day, and it's a STRAC award that we're receiving for our EMS. And it's our heart attack calls and how long from the time we arrive on scene to the time we depart. And we're receiving an award this week, and we're in competition, if you will, with San Antonio, New Braunfels, all of the different urban EMS systems in the region. We had the fastest average for the whole calendar year 2016, a new record for us of 12 minutes, 12.6 minutes per call mean scene time. I had to ask Jason Mabbitt what a mean scene time was. I thought it was something other than what it was. But he said this is due to the training that they have, and they've been really working on getting patients to the hospital quickly. So fantastic. And then the bottom line on Valentine's Day is when you have the heart attack, this kind of training and this kind of performance does save lives. So congratulations, Jason.
Fantastic. Good stuff. The next item I have on the agenda this evening is the hearing of residents, and we'll start out with Mr. Glenn Outlaw. Chief?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Glenn Outlaw, 3729 Forsyth Park. I'm sorry I couldn't be here last week. It was a little bit under the weather. I just wanted to take this opportunity to thank city staff for their prompt attention to my request to put the council videos online. As I remarked to Mr. Kessel earlier this evening, though, you have to be careful what you ask for because they've also decided to put the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings out there, which means I have to behave myself now. But I just wanted to again express my appreciation for how quickly staff took care of that. And to add to one of the comments that Mr. Kessel just made about the, we called it Financial Peace University at the time. I think that's an outstanding program. I had an opportunity to attend as a city employee, and I spent a lot of my time sitting there going, yeah, been there, done that. A lot of things I wish I'd learned a lot sooner in my life, and I think it's really great that the city is once again making that program available to its employees. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next this evening, Mr. Danny Sale. Danny?
Danny Sale, 3812 Hunters Glen, here in Schertz. Mr. Mayor, Council. 2 items first. I've seen several things go through council and turn out really well. I've seen several things go through various councils and turn out not so well, and I've seen a few things that should have never made it out of council but did. I've been fortunate enough to live all over the country, and I'd kind of like to take some of the good things that I've seen and propose it so that possibly Schertz could do something similar. One of the better things that I ever saw was the city of Kingsville, believe it or not. They worked with their recycle partners, and the city furnished a location and a single employee. The recycle partners furnished a compactor and a forklift. And what the city started doing was providing a location for small businesses and homes to bring their cardboard for recycle. One nice side benefit to that was that if they were decent boxes, in other words, not tore up, that they would set them aside, and that way the residents of the town had a built-in supply of moving boxes or shipping boxes or whatever. When I spoke to the city council there, they said that actually it was a revenue positive because the money that they got to bale up the cardboard and basically sell back to the recycling people was more than what it cost for the location and the employee. The way they rectified that was that a lot of cardboard that would have been going into dumpsters and going to the landfill was now going there, and it was generating more usable product, and it was also saving the landfill from getting filled up quite so fast. The second thing is, if I would have probably paid attention to the city website a whole lot more or so, I've adopted 1103 for litter control, and so I've been going in parts of that road that aren't normally gone at. And the stormwater weirs that go underneath the road at Chelsea Street and 1103, there's starting to be a large buildup of limbs and debris that's causing some issue. Like I said, if I'd have known who to talk to, I would have done it and not bothered y'all. But that's what we're running into.
Yep.
And it's way more than I want to try to collect as litter. But, it's going to take two guys in a dump truck.
Yep. Great. Thank you for letting us know, and we've taken note of it, and we'll get it addressed.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Salem. And next on the list, Mr. Grumpy Zeus. Mr. Zeus?
Good evening, Mayor. Council, Grumpy Zeus, 528 Waywood Pass. I'd like to share something with you. I took a note, and just to kind of remember the day and the time. It was February 8th, approximately about 11:55 a.m. As I was driving for my subdivision, I noticed a city vehicle parked right at 3009 in Ashland Place, just when you turn in, exactly at that point. A young man was working alone. The vehicle, it does say Schertz on it, but there's no lights or signs of caution. The young man was single-handedly shoveling blacktop and covering an area that had a pothole right at the intersection of 3009 and Ashley. I pulled up and says, "Thank you for what you're doing, but do you need help?" He said, "No." I says, "Look, it's really dangerous. Nobody would see you. If they would turn, they would hit you immediately." So I'll do it quick, but that shows you he's very dedicated. He's a young black male, very polite, very hard worker, and I just find it hard to believe that would send somebody by themselves and do that kind of work, but he was doing it. And I did go by, and I went back again. He did finish. Fortunately, I don't think he have enough material to cover the entire pothole, but it's an exceptional employee, and I certainly do. I kind of parked, and I was really afraid and concerned for his safety, so I just advised maybe next time we send a truck with flashing lights or cones or telling traffic that this is very dangerous. The other thing, Mr. Mayor and Council, I want to talk about item number Resolution 17R07. I see that we are going to use the same company as risk management for Station Fire Number 3. Now, some of us, and most of us sitting up here, know that the same company oversaw the construction and the completion of the animal shelter. And I could say bluntly, it was a disaster from day one. 2 years later, up to today, they experience still problems. The other thing is I look at here is why even go and seek somebody from outside San Antonio all the way out to Dallas area and pay all those expenses? You know, I believe that we consciously have to watch how do we spend the taxpayers' money. And I'm very certain there's many qualified people in the area. So please, when you look into this item, number 9, listed in the agenda, think about the cost and think about did that do it justice. Saving a little money could be a disaster also. So that's all I wanted to bring, and I sure thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, that's everyone that signed up this evening under the hearing of residents. So I'm going to move on to the consent agenda items. First item on the consent agenda are minutes, approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 7, 2017. Item number 2, approval of the resignations of Ms. Muriel Ferdinand Hercule, EDC, and Mr. Dave Reynolds, Committee of Committees Advisory Board, and the appointment of Mr. Don Taylor to the Hal Baldwin Scholarship Committee. Item number 3, Ordinance 17S07, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the official zoning map by rezoning approximately 1 acre of land from single-family residential district, R2, to Main Street Mixed Use District, or MSMU. Item number 4, Ordinance 17A08, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, providing for the extension of the boundary lines of the City of Schertz, Texas, by the annexation of approximately 63 acres located on Trainer Hale Road, approximately 600 feet north of Interstate 10, Bexar County, Texas. And item number 5, Ordinance 17S09, an ordinance by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, amending the official zoning map by zoning approximately 63 acres of land to Public Use District, or PUB. Ladies and gentlemen, any of these that need to be pulled and considered individually?
Could I ask a question about item 2, or do you want to pull it?
Sir, Mr. Crawford.
Don Taylor's name is on there, but Don Taylor lives outside of Beaumont now.
That's correct. Yeah, we do have multiple members that have served on the scholarship committee that do not live inside the City of Schertz.
Thank you.
Sir. Anyone else? Is there a motion to approve the items on consent?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Second.
A motion for Mr. Edwards, second for Mr. Larson. Any other comments or questions from council? Hearing none, then I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
7 ayes and no nays. The motion carries. All right, item number 6, in a regular discussion and action items, Resolution 17R09, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing an interlocal agreement with the South Texas Regional Advisory Council, or STRAC, for EMS billing solution services and other matters in connection therewith. Mr. Mabbitt, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. We're asking for approval to enter an agreement with STRAC for them to host our billing server. For several years now, STRAC has been, they have the server that hosts our patient care reports. That's where they reside on. We've maintained a server here at the city for our billing software. We would like to STRAC to house both of these servers. Several benefits include housing all the data on one database. It will increase the production in our billing department. Also, we'll no longer need to maintain our server here at the city. No server hardware costs, software, licensing fees, and all that STRAC will take care of. So I'll move over for any questions that you may have.
Council, questions for Mr. Mabbitt? If not, is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
I have a motion from Mr. Thompson, a second from Mr. Davis. Any other comments or questions from council? Hearing none, then I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye. 7 ayes, no nays. The motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 7 is Resolution 17R10, a resolution by the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, regarding the submission of a grant application in an amount up to $76,767.47 to the State Administrative Agency for grant funds from the 2017 Homeland Security Grant Program to prevent, respond to, and recover from acts of terrorism and natural disasters, and authorizing the acceptance of the funds upon award. Chief, how are you?
Council, good, thank you.
Good evening.
This is just real quick going through from the orientation. Last week we talked about Schertz Fire Rescue is a part of Guadacoma Hazmat Team. I won't go through each item on here, but the big ticket item is a Hazmat Elite Chemical ID, $69,000, and it identifies 50,000 different chemicals and compounds and tells you what it is. This is also something such as, it is a big item. We've applied for it on another grant as well, so we're hoping to be successful on one of them. And that's pretty much it.
Very good. Ladies and gentlemen, questions for the chief? Not, is there a motion to approve the resolution?
So move.
Second.
I think I heard Mr. Thompson with a motion and Mr. Edwards with a second. Any comments or questions from council? Hearing none, then I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
7 ayes, no nays. The motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Next item is item number 8, Resolution 17R06, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the filing of a petition for injunctive relief to gain necessary access for determining the location of easements in anticipation of future use of the power of eminent domain to acquire said easements necessary for the completion of the Schertz-Seguin Local Government Corporation's SSLGC Secondary Pipeline and Water Infrastructure Improvement Project. Mr. Waite, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This evening we come to you with an important step in the building of our second pipeline to deliver water to us through the Schertz-Seguin Local Government Corporation. We've been working for quite some time to get to this step, and this is the step where we now need to engage City Council because we're moving forward with identifying landowners and getting permission to get on that land. This is a first step in being able to put a pipeline in the ground. We're calling it a parallel pipeline because it's going to run more or less right next to the pipeline that's currently in the ground. There are a few areas where that's not possible, either because of development that's happened in the area or other issues that we've encountered maybe with our previous pipeline and other geologic features, so we may have to have a little bit of separation. But the SSLGC Corporation reached out and contracted with some land agents that have been out there notifying these property owners that we'd like to get on their land. The SSLGC is our corporation along with our sister city Seguin, and we are the two partners in the corporation. The corporation itself does not have powers of eminent domain, does not have powers to be able to get on that land by themselves, but the two cities as the partners of the corporation do have that power, and so the corporation's relying upon each city. This pipeline is from Seguin to Schertz, but because we're partners in the process with Seguin, we have divided up the length of the parallel pipeline proposed between us and Seguin. Seguin is covering from the booster pump station within the city of Seguin all the way to just the eastern border of the city of Marion, about half of the length of the pipeline. And the city of Schertz has agreed to take take on the legal means necessary from that point in Marion all the way to the water delivery point at our water plant at Live Oak Road. So what has happened is that the land agent has gone out and attempted to contact all of these land agents, or all of these property owners. There's about 80 property owners and somewhere north of 110 different parcels of land in this right-of-way or in this route that we're attempting to take. And on the screen in front of you is a Google Earth view of the overall pipeline route. And the properties are shaded, and I'm going to zoom in here just to the eastern edge of Marion and show you where we take over. We take over right at Gimble Road, which is this road coming off of FM 78. So right there where the purple is the property parcel. That's the last one that Seguin will handle, and then everything west of there, as you see the two pipelines progress west, will be property that we will have to interact with if the land agents can't get right of entry. Land agents are going through an extremely extensive process to try to get that right of entry. A lot of that was outlined in the documentation that you received in your packets. But it involves identifying the actual property owner, trying to locate an actual address and a phone number for them, and then reaching out and contacting them. They try verbal contact, and then they try written contact, getting them the right of entry and hoping that they would, and after explaining it to them, hoping because they already have an easement on their property in a lot of these cases that they will agree to allow the city or the SSLGC folks to come on this and voluntarily sign the right of entry. Of all of our parcels that have been in this process since before the new year, all of those have already voluntarily signed the right of entry paperwork. There's some stipulations they put on certain times. You got to watch out for the cattle. There's one property owner that we thought would not be too agreeable because he wasn't last time. His only stipulation is the aggressive bulls on his property could be dangerous to the crews that are out there. And so with proper notification, he will help keep them distracted while they're out there doing their surveying and geological testing. We do have a few areas as we get closer to Schertz that we are not quite sure of yet because we have just started the notification of those property owners. So you can still see the parallel pipeline running across here, and now we're on Schaefer Road just this side of Hakerville and Cibolo. and we approach Main Street here in Cibolo. And then as we come over here, the red line is our current pipeline, and before it gets to the Cibolo, it veers up, comes across this property, comes across 78, and then across the train property, and then runs right down the side of Cibolo's industrial park. There is, because of some construction there, no more room for us to do that. So SSLGC engineers met with city staff, met with CCMA, met with the city of Cibolo to talk about what route the line could possibly take to have the least impact upon current property owners and other structures out there. And so the proposed route they're looking at is actually going to route the pipeline across the Cibolo at Schaefer Road and then take it down what are two old roads in the Crescent Bend Park. Back when it was a community before the '98 flood, there's actually some remaining streets out there. The Parks Department in Bexar County and our Parks Department desire for those streets to go away so that it is more of a nature park and people don't think there's actually streets that they can use to recreate on or drive on. So SSLGC is going to take care of that if Bexar County agrees to this routing, and we're going to go down these two strips of land here and then actually put in some trails there. And then we're going to come across, and we've got some new landowners here that we've just identified as we approach 78, and then once we get across 78, until we can get into the drainage structure that is at 3009 right by the apartment complex. That's our drainage structure, and so we'll, of course, agree to having that in the bottom of that. So those property owners have just now been started to be reached out to. And so what we're here tonight to do is to ask City Council's approval and to approve a resolution that if any of the property owners along that route, after this extensive 6 to 8 week process to get voluntary right of entry approval, to allow our legal team, which is through our city attorney's firm, and the actual attorney that will be handling that is standing in tonight, Ms. Jameen Williams, and she's the expert at Denton Navarro in doing this type of work, and she. What we're asking for is a resolution authorizing her to proceed with legal means necessary if a property owner says, I don't want you coming on surveying. What that legal issue, what that legal procedure is that once the land agent is done and they can't get any more, this is after numerous visits and knocking on doors and leaving things on the door if they won't answer their door and trying to communicate one-on-one with the property owners, and they've been very successful so far, is that the legal team will send a letter on legal letterhead saying, this is what's about to happen, just so you're aware. Here's the voluntary right of entry if you'd like to sign it, and if not, to approach the court to get an injunction to allow the surveying and the engineering teams on the land to do the engineering, the geologic testing, and the appraisal of the land while we're all out there at that one time. That is the first step, and what's important for council to understand is that by approving this first step, we are committing to walk down a path. And that path that we're walking down is, once we get all that surveying done and all that testing done, and we know the exact route of the pipeline, then our land agent's going to come back and start negotiating the purchase of the easements. We're not purchasing the land, we're purchasing the easements, which means they can't put any permanent structure over the top of our water line. Didn't really necessarily happen with the first one. We have a playground of a daycare over our water line, and we have a manufactured home over our water line in Seguin's half of our easement work. So, but ideally, they can't put any permanent structures over the top of that water line. And so what we're committing to is not only, we're committing to coming back if necessary, if we can't reach a negotiated deal to purchase those easements, there may be a day we come back to council in the next few months and say, we need to move forward with eminent domain on this many parcels. And that would probably be on a onesie or twosie basis, depending upon who agrees and who doesn't agree. But tonight we're asking just for the first step of approval, but we wanted to make sure everybody understood, much like the issue with the trunk line for sewer down south, is that this is the first step of a couple of other legal steps that council may need to partake in the future if the volunteerism that we've seen on signing the right of entry does not continue over to selling us the easements for the placement of the water.
Yep.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Council questions for Mr. Wade.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Edwards.
I'm assuming that Cibolo will be a part of the eminent domain discussion as well as Marion? And will they be helping us with that, or is it just for our portion of the pipeline that we're looking at?
It's just for our portion, and because we're the corporate partner with Seguin, it's us and Seguin doing this eminent domain work.
Okay, so if someone is in Marion, if the property is in Marion, can we claim eminent domain on property in Marion or Cibolo?
And I'll let Jermaine answer the legal piece behind that, but the short answer is yes.
Well,
You have to push the button. It's right in the front. Perfect.
You're there.
Is it on?
There you
Okay. It depends on the actual geographic location within the boundaries of Marion. We have authority to condemn property inside of our city limits, of course, outside of our city limits, and if necessary, within the boundaries of another municipality. And so it would depend on the geographic location of the parcel, whether or not, again, as Dudley has said, whether or not we can negotiate something voluntarily with the landowner. But to answer your question in terms of whether we can or cannot legally, yes, the law does allow us to do that.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Gutierrez?
Regarding the eminent domain, if we do have to purchase it, we're just purchasing the easement rights at that point then, right?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Thompson?
At this point, I believe I heard the answer, but what percentage of homeowners thus far have voluntarily complied, of the ones that have been contacted for a while?
Right now, on our portion of the pipeline, I believe every one of them have signed a voluntary right of entry. On Seguin's portion, I believe there's 5 that they're looking at doing injunctions with.
Anyone else? Mr. Larson?
Just to help me understand the timeline, you said that there's a portion of the individuals in this route that are just now beginning the process of being contacted. And so I guess I just want to understand the necessity of, it feels weird to me to say, hey, will you let us have access to your easement, but have already made a decision that says it's a voluntary, but if you don't, we've already decided that we're going to make you. And I know that's just simple. It doesn't change the dynamics of it, but you get my question, like that timing I'm trying to understand.
Yes, so we were going to come to council a couple of weeks ago, and this got pushed back a little bit. What we wanted to do was make sure council approved and authorized by resolution the approval to move this process forward. We were going to do that, and when we were looking at doing that originally, we had 3 or 4 landowners that had yet to sign their voluntary right of entry. And the purpose was to lay the groundwork so that when we exhaust that process, that Denton Navarro can move forward with that process and immediately just keep that ball moving, so that there's not a delay of trying to come back to council if it, And so the idea was for the right of entry process only was to go ahead and get approval so that if we came across a landowner that wouldn't voluntarily sign, then that process could start up. They could when the land agent had reached a dead end that everybody agreed to was a dead end, then they could initiate with their letter and then start moving towards the injunction if necessary.
Anyone else? Mr. Crawford? No? Okay. In that case, is there a motion to approve Resolution 17R06?
So move.
A second.
Motion by
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Thompson, a second by Mr. Edwards. Mr. Crawford?
I made an inadvertent mistake. I have a question to ask. Since I'm on the SSLGC as a council liaison, not a voting member, there's no problem with me voting, is there?
Should be no issue that I'm aware of.
Okay. Thank
The
you.
attorney
Sorry,
says
Mr.
you're
Mayor.
good to go. Perfect. Anyone else? If not, then I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Nay.
Aye.
All right, I have 6 ayes and 1 nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Good. Next item we have on the agenda this evening is item number 9, Resolution 17R07, a resolution by the City Council of City of Schertz, Texas, authorizing the pre-construction phase service only of the Construction Manager at Risk Agreement for Fire Station Number 3 and miscellaneous projects and associated support systems and other matters in connection therewith. Mr. Godrow, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, Mr. Kessel. My name is Phil Godrow. I'm with Jackson A&E Associates. We are the owner's representative for the design and construction of projects for the city. Fire Station 3 and the projects in front of you here, the 5 miscellaneous projects, are part of what we do for the city. Mostly, I would assume that you're not familiar with working with a construction manager at risk proposition. It is one of the allowed construction delivery methods by the state. We have used it very successfully on the natatorium, and what we're talking about tonight is authorizing only the pre-construction services for both Fire Station 3 and for the projects that have been listed before you, and that is for two reasons. One, on Fire Station number 3, we believe that at the end of schematic phase, which we are at now, that we have a project that is a viable project that meets the program requirements of the fire department and EMS, and we believe is pretty close to the budget. The construction business in Texas is booming, in South Texas in particular. Prices are constantly escalating, and we have seen prices on similar fire stations ranging from $375 to $425 a square foot. At $425 a square foot, we can't build a 3-bay, 15,000 square foot fire station. That's not in the funds. The purpose of the pre-construction phase that you'd be authorizing tonight is to have the firm of Thomas S. Byrne, who was also the CM at risk for the natatorium and did contracting work for the recreation building, would work with the design team and with the city to provide continual pricing inputs as we go along and work through the design development drawings, giving us pricing so that we don't end up with a $7, $8, or $9 million project at the end of the day that we can't afford. Their input has always been valuable and has been pretty much on the money. We have not exceeded any of the numbers that they have given us, with the exception of the rec center, which we knew was going to be a problem, because as we uncovered materials in that building, we found significant issues that had to be addressed to be corrected. So that is the one exception to that statement. But in a construction manager at risk role, they have been within their CM budget, which is called a guaranteed maximum price. The purpose for the second set that you see there, for the miscellaneous projects, is that we don't know what these are going to cost. We have estimates of some things for the fire station, 2 repairs, but that's going to be a one where the pricing is going to be critical. Part of what they will do is go in there and explore it, do a little bit more in-depth than we had done 3 years ago, I believe, to figure out the water infiltration problem and how to solve that problem, and to make the building watertight, which is apparently has never been. Depending on how that number comes about and what that number is, we may or may not be able to go to the second or the third or the fourth project. So it's all a matter of, this is how much money we have, and here's the cost of these projects. At the end of the day, when we have a guaranteed maximum price, we would come back to the council for authorization for construction. So tonight is only to authorize the expenditure of funds and to initiate the pre-construction phase of these projects. I'll be glad to answer any questions I can.
Very good. Council, questions for Mr. Gaudreau?
I do have a couple of questions.
Mr. Edwards.
On this, would it be appropriate to ask, and you guys tell me if I'm off base, are we still working on that animal shelter issue? And I'm asking this for a reason.
We are, but they were not involved with that project.
Okay, so the CM at risk for the pool was Byrne, right?
Yes, sir.
So you're going to negotiate with Byrne, or are you going to go actually and have Byrne go out and do all the negotiations for us?
The state statute requires them at the time to publicly bid the project and to take bids just like we would be bidding it. And it's an open book method by which the city has the right to see any and all contracts. So you know how much money is going where and to whom. And then the CM at risk is paid a fee for his services. He doesn't get overhead and profit or anything else. He gets a set fee that's already been negotiated and is contained in the agreement should we move forward. Now, for Fire Station 3, for instance, we anticipate going through the standard design development, having a kind of an interim GMP at that point so we know where we stand. And then if we're within the budget, if we're not, then we make whatever adjustments that we need to make either to the program or to the budget. Those are the two areas that you have. Assuming that that goes through, we're in budget, we have a program, we would come back to council and we would do amendment number, might be 2 at that point, but an amendment to this agreement for pre-construction services that would authorize the construction phase of that project to go forward.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Edwards? You good? Mr. Crawford?
I'm not sure I heard Mr. Edwards correctly. Is the construction management company at risk? Is that also the guy that's going to do the construction if everything comes within the expectations on his preliminary evaluation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, I certainly understand the value of bundling projects to get the most value for our dollar, having somebody work on multiple buildings at the same time. I have some reservations about the priorities that we're looking at with this particular resolution. You just mentioned that we don't even have a firm dollar figure for Fire Station 2 for the water infiltration. And we're going to look at that, and then we're going to look at some other features or other issues potentially with the senior center, which we know is needed because of the WellMed relocation and the expansion of our services there. And then we have other fixes to building 2. But don't we, when I was sitting on that side of the counter for the past year or two, didn't we mention that we had the same type of water infiltration problems at building 2?
Yes, these are the same problems.
But our project that we've got now does not address the water infiltration projects. It addresses other interior features of building 2.
No, sir. This is for the exterior wall repair of Fire Station number 2.
Not talking about Fire Station 2, I'm talking about building 2.
I'm sorry. My mistake.
So the project that the listing that we had in our support material talked about Fire Station 3, Fire Station 2. It talked about the senior center, and it talked about office renovations in building 2. But previously it was identified that we have water infiltration issues at building 2, but that doesn't appear to be a priority like the water infiltration issues at Fire Station 2. And if I'm not mistaken, I heard today that we had some water infiltration issues at the Civic Center, or water getting into the front of the Civic Center. Is that would be the community center I think you're referring to?
So we have roof issues at Building 1 and the community center. Building 1's the old City Hall, the front building.
Okay.
Our facilities maintenance guys, that's a maintenance thing on the roof, and they've got some prices on that, and we're looking at how we can fund that internally without using CO bonds for that. The community center does have a water infiltration issue, and if we could keep the rain away long enough for our contracted roofer to get in there and fix it, the funds are set aside. That roof is slated to be repaired or replaced, actually, right now, which will solve that problem. We haven't been able to get up there because of how the weather's been hitting us in these waves. The water infiltration issue at Building 2, the administration building, is an issue, but it's not as bad of a water infiltration issue as we're seeing up at the fire station. So we've done some preliminary work, some attempts at sealing that and to do some work around the base of it. And for instance, last night we got just shy of 2 inches of rain both at the fire station and down here. We didn't have any water infiltration issues in our building, in Building 2 down here. Fire station number 2, when they walked into the kitchen this morning, they had about 2 inches of water in the kitchen that had come in underneath the wall. So Fire Station 2's water infiltration issues are a problem. Which wall leaks is dependent upon which way the rain comes out of. Building number 2's issue, we've not seen in quite some time. We haven't had any rain out of the east in a while, and that used to be some of the areas where we had the biggest problem. But when we get our normal rains out of the southwest or blowing in on a cold front out of the north, we don't see the water infiltration issues like we see at the fire station. So we have some minor issues there, but they don't compare to what's going on at Station 2. And some of the work we're working at doing is to try to find space to put people that we're authorized to hire and have them a place to sit when they come to work, if that makes sense.
And it does to a degree, but that also leads to another question of the city in the past purchased multiple properties down at 10 Commercial Place, that area down there, for the expansion and to alleviate some of the workspace issues down there in that area. Yet we've apparently done nothing with those properties since we've purchased them to facilitate their use by the city in a more effective way.
That is correct. They are addressed in our facility master plan that we are putting the finishing touches on as to what those should be or could be used for to help alleviate either congestion issues in current buildings or as we grow to enable larger operations, such as the building that is ideal for the fleet operation. Will allow our fleet operation to grow and have more storage and to operate more efficiently than they do where they currently are. That's in that facility master plan and is in a list of things that plan is going to recommend, much like the PCI index of here's phase one, here's phase two, here's phase three. These issues that are a part of this were discussed a little bit in concept with the previous council, but it is fixing Fire Station 2, which we've been saving money for 2 years. It is addressing the issue that has risen up in front of us with the senior center when our tenant WellMed moved out, leaving space that our overcrowded senior center could greatly use for programs, but you can't do too many programs. You can't get too many seniors in a clinic office space. You can get like 2 of them in there, not 8 or 10. So there needs to be some phasing of that and some rechange of that. And then the actual where do we set staff and how do we organize different departments is the third piece with the changes to the Civic Center and the changes that we're suggesting in Building 2. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, and I maybe to chime in, because sometimes if you're not planning to talk, it's easier to sit and listen and then perceive maybe what the question was. And again, I think what I'm understanding is we have a number of buildings in the city that have issues with them, if you will. As you noted, we have some issues with infiltration at Building 2, the administration building. We have the buildings we purchased over off Commercial Place. And the question is why these and not those is how I took the question perhaps. And so what I'd say from a staff perspective, while we haven't necessarily fully prioritized it, I think everyone on staff would say, and probably council, Fire Station 2 is the highest priority, clearly. We have folks who live and work out of that, who they have water coming in. And again, with the water that came in this morning, that is easily something I think we would agree that we just have to take care of. The other issue that we've got is, as you've heard from some of our seniors who've shown up from time to time, they are sort of bursting at the seams. That is a good problem to have. We would much rather have them say, we're running out of space, we have this issue. WellMed's moved out, as you noted, and we're looking to move over there. I will say that those are clearly top priorities. Fire station we definitely need to do. If we've got the money for the senior center, we would like to do that one too, as it affects our seniors over there. I think the assumption going in on the other 3 is that for a hopefully relatively small amount of money, we could make those other adjustments to be able to have a little more room to grow. The investment we would have to make in the buildings off Commercial Place are much more substantial. Some of the other buildings that we've talked about really fall under general maintenance. And so I will say this from a staff perspective. If those other 3 items, other than senior, come back too high, likely staff is going to get up and say, look, we're not sure it's worth it. We were hoping it would be cheaper. We're not sure it's worth the opportunity cost given all of the other things that we want to do. And likely staff is going to say we need to either look at those opportunity costs relative to the other buildings that need to be fixed, or frankly, it just didn't turn out that we can get in as cheaply as we thought, and we don't want to do it. But the idea is to look at this, hopefully find out for a relatively small amount we can get in those 3 buildings. So maybe that goes to your question, is why those as opposed to the others? And that's maybe the logic.
It does to a degree. I guess my question for up here is are we looking at now just approving this resolution to get the estimates for these projects? And will these projects then again come back before the council for approval prior to actually being done?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, in all cases. Yep.
What sometimes y'all pay me for, I don't want to get people's hopes up if we've got staff looking at, hey, we're going to redo the Civic Center. We have a lot of concerns about the unknowns at Fire Station 2 and what we will find where we get there. Certainly, I have some concerns with regard to the senior center that because of the change in occupancy of that space, the nature of the use, that one may come in more expensive than we want as well. And so we may struggle to get that one done as well. So again, just to be clear, I don't want everybody to think we're going to definitely come in. It will come back to you, but it may very well come back going, we can just do fire station, and we can do this right now for the senior center, or we can do fire station, senior center, but we're going to have to pull in a little more money even to make those two things happen. But that's why we're doing this, to get those estimates.
That's an accurate description, and it may be that the money, if monies are left over after Fire Station 2, there may not be enough money to do the senior center, but there may be enough to do the civic center offices. So it's kind of a mix and match. And as I turn around, this is Mr. Tony Battle, who's president of the Southern Division of T.S. Byrne, who's with us. He has been very active in all of these projects, so a good person to work with. But yes, none of this is for construction. All of this is for budget pricing, pre-construction services, ultimately leading to a guaranteed maximum price. The smaller projects are about 95, 97%. A couple of them are 100% done. So we can get those done, and I believe contractually 45 days from notice to proceed on the smaller projects. So those will move very quickly. Fire Station 3 will be a few months.
Very good. Mr. Thompson?
It's been a long day, so I just need to clarify an answer, if you don't mind, sir. Mr. Azouz said that the same company that built the animal shelter is being asked for and mentioned the quality of that. I just want to verify, is this the same company that did the animal shelter?
No, sir, it is not.
Thank you.
Council?
One
Ms.
thing
Gonzalez?
to clarify, who was that asked about Mark? I'm sorry, Mr. Davis. I spoke with Linda, and there was water that came in through the Civic Center this morning. It was just in the front area where Linda Babineau sits. This is the first time that water has come in, so it could have been the way the wind was blowing, the amount that we got. So just wanted to clarify that for you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Crawford?
Mr. Goodrow, sort of in preparation for the next time y'all come up, you may come up and say there's not enough money to do everything. You may come up and say there's still not enough money. Could we get some more money? Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's entirely possible. And at that point, the council needs to make the
I
decision.
understand. I just want to make sure that's kind of where we may go.
Absolutely, because we're not comfortable, we're not sure. We've had some estimates that are 2 and 3 years old, and boy, those just don't count anymore.
Okay. Thank you.
Council, anyone else? Is there a motion to approve 17R07?
So move.
Second.
A motion from Mr. Thompson. I'm sorry, who seconded that? Was that Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Second from Mr. Edwards. Any other comments or questions from council? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 7 ayes and no nays. Motion carries. Thank you,
Thank you very
gentlemen.
much.
Next item on the agenda this evening is a roll call vote confirmation.
Consent items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Motion made by Mayor Pro Tem Edwards, seconded by Councilmember Larson. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards voted yes. Council members Davis, Gutierrez, Larson, Thompson, Kaiser, and Crawford voted yes. Motion passed. Item number 6, resolution number 17R09. Motion made by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Councilmember Davis. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards voted yes. Council members Davis, Gutierrez, Larson, Thompson, Kaiser, and Crawford voted yes. Motion passed. Item number 7, resolution number 17R10. Motion was made by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Edwards. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards voted yes. Council members Davis, Gutierrez, Larson, Thompson, Kaiser, and Crawford voted yes. Motion passed. Item number 8, resolution number 17R6. Motion was made by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Edwards. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards voted yes. Council members Davis, Gutierrez, Thompson, Kaiser, and Crawford voted yes. Councilmember Larson voted no. Motion passed. Item number 9, resolution number 17R7. Motion was made by Councilmember Thompson, seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Edwards. Mayor Pro Tem Edwards voted yes. Council members Davis, Gutierrez, Larson, Thompson, Kaiser, and Crawford voted yes. Motion passed.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, we do have need of an executive session this evening, so the City Council will meet in closed session under Section 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, personnel matters to deliberate the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of the city manager. We'll go immediately into executive session, and folks will be out as soon as we can. We've gone through executive session. The next item on the agenda that's immediate to that is item 13A, reconvening in a regular session, which we have done. At this time, we're back in regular session. Council, I don't believe there's any action to be taken at this time based on the discussions held in closed session. So at this point, I will move to item number 11, future agenda items that need to be on subsequent meetings that are not currently scheduled. Anyone? I don't see that there is. Number 12, announcements by the mayor and council members. We'll start with Mayor Pro Tem Edwards.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Davis.
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Gutierrez.
No comments.
Mr. Larson. Dr. Kaiser. I'm sorry, I skipped Mr. Thompson.
Nothing.
Mr. Crawford.
Nothing.
And there being nothing from me, then we stand adjourned.